What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today, we've got another live fantasy football mock draft for you back on FantasyPros with a 12-team standard mock draft where we'll be selecting from the third overall position. As far as the roster is concerned, pretty standard. One quarterback, two RBs, two wide receivers, a tight end, a flex, and then 5 bench spots. So that's pretty much it, and we can kick this thing off. And while we wait, a quick reminder. If you enjoy, hit that like button, subscribe, let us hear it in the comment section with any questions you guys might have. We will do our best to answer them all. And lastly, check us out online at alldaypigskin.com. And while you're there, get yourself a copy of the 2021 ADP Fantasy Football Draft Guide. Everything you could want at a great value. Details in the description. But with that being said, let's get into this draft because we're picking third overall, and the first two selections have been made, Christian McCaffrey and Dalvin Cook. No surprise there. Now, this is standard base, so you see the top recommendation. That's Derrick Henry. And yeah, I mean, I agree with it. It's chalk, it's easy, but Derrick Henry in standard scoring formats where you don't get extra bonuses for catching the football, the dude is like, he's in a league of his own. It's him and Christian McCaffrey and Dalvin Cook. In fact, if you want to argue Derrick Henry should be the first pick overall in standard formats, I wouldn't have a problem with that. So getting him here at the third pick overall is pretty simple. You know, if it wasn't him, other guys that I would consider probably an Ezekiel Elliott, probably maybe even a Nick Chubb, just a couple names to mention. So yeah, Derrick Henry is going to be the pick here. That's pretty easy. It'll be more intriguing with what happens with our next couple of selections. But before we get to that point, I do want to look at the draft board, and I want to see what has taken place. So after our Derrick Henry selection, you see it. Alvin Kamara is the next pick, followed by Ezekiel Elliott and then Aaron Jones. While I love Alvin Kamara, you know, he won't be quite as valuable in standard formats as he would be in PPR scoring. But again, with Michael Thomas gone, his receiving yardage should go up. But I don't give him as much of a boost in standard scoring as I would in PPR after the injury to Michael Thomas. Ezekiel Elliott, I would have rather high up there. Aaron Jones, someone that I like. Nick Chubb. Yeah, I'd have Nick Chubb probably ahead of Aaron Jones. Then Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley, a very interesting pick there. You guys know, obviously, the whole drama with his PUP list designation coming off of it. Now his ADP will go up a little bit. But, I mean, if this was a couple months ago, Saquon Barkley would be a top 3, top 4 pick. So I think all things considered, this is probably pretty good value for Saquon Barkley. Then you see Tyreek Hill, the first pass catcher off the board, followed by Jonathan Taylor. Right now, Jonathan Taylor is a first-round pick. I think he's a little bit too risky there, given the circumstance and all the injuries in Indianapolis. Not necessarily to Jonathan Taylor, but the quarterback, offensive line, so a little bit too risky for my liking. Then you see Devontae Adams, followed by Antonio Gibson to end out the first round. You know, nothing too crazy there. Joe Mixon, the first pick in the second round, probably a little bit too high for him when you've still got other guys that I think are viable options. Austin Eckler is still there, even though he is much more PPR suited. Again, you got a Clyde Edwards-Helaire who's still on the board for us. Chris Carson, who I really like in standard scoring. But then in the second round, Travis Kelce, followed by a run on wide receivers. Stephon Diggs, Calvin Ridley. I love the value for Calvin Ridley over there. I was secretly hoping he'd fall to us. That wasn't the case. Then DeAndre Hopkins, Justin Jefferson. And then you see a run on a couple standard-suited running backs, Najee Harris, J.K. Dobbins. And then Austin Eckler, because all things considered, you know, Austin Eckler towards the end of the second round, I get it, it's standard scoring, but I still think he's a pretty good value there. But let's get to our board here and see what we've got to work with, because here we could go in the direction of a running back like a Clyde Edwards-Helaire, even though I do think he's probably a little bit more suited for, you know, that pass-catching type of running back. He's going to get a lot of value there. Or we could go wide receiver. And I'm looking at these wide receivers. I've already got Derrick Henry, so doubling down on the Tennessee offense, while I don't really have a problem with it, I think it makes more sense to go DK Metcalf here. And then the hope being that we can get Chris Carson in the third round. I really like a Keenan Allen, but again, he's going to lose a lot of value in standard scoring. The guy's a slam dunk in PPR because he's going to get all the volume and, you know, all the receptions. But in standard scoring, when you take that scoring aspect of it away, then it becomes a little bit tougher. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to go with DK Metcalf as our choice for our starting wide receiver, and you can even see what the team looks like so far. We've got Derrick Henry, we've got DK Metcalf, and now we've got a couple of decisions to make. Let's quickly go over the picks that took place after that DK Metcalf selection. You see Darren Waller, you see Clyde Edwards-Helaire, so there goes CEH, followed by George Kittle. I think George Kittle, probably I'd be picking him a little bit later. Patrick Mahomes, I'd definitely be picking later. So I'm not a big fan of those two selections necessarily. But let's look at our suggestions here. A.J. Brown's still on the board. I think he's pretty good value, honestly. Yes, we'd have two Tennessee Titans, but DK Metcalf and A.J. Brown, two guys that I think are pretty solid, standard-suited wide receivers. The one thing that I do want to do here is I'm going to look at the running backs. See what the chances are that one of these guys falls to us if we pass on Chris Carson. So you look at the names. Montgomery ain't falling to us. Swift, no. Jacobs, no. Then you look at Miles Sanders. I'd rather pass on Miles Sanders. Darrell Henderson is somebody that's intriguing, but I think there's a very high likelihood that he, again, probably is drafted. Then I look at a Myles Gaskin and a Mike Davis. I think Mike Davis is much more PPR suited versus the wide receivers that could fall to us, I think. And in my opinion, you see with the wide receivers that there's some names here that I'd rather take a chance on. Guys like a Deontay Johnson, guys like a, maybe Amari Cooper in Dallas if he falls to us, something like that, a Cooper Kupp. So right now, I'm going running back. Yeah, I would love A.J. Brown, but I think the way we started off the squad, Chris Carson right now is probably the better pick at running back. Yes, I understand that we're going to be doubling down on two Seattle players, but it would have been the same situation otherwise if we went Derrick Henry and A.J. Brown or going Chris Carson and DK Metcalf here. So we're buying a lot of stock either way in Tennessee or Seattle. So with that being the case, I'm just going with the more valuable position. To me, that is running back. So let's go with Chris Carson here. And then let's see what happens afterwards with these next couple of picks and see if we get some good value here and if we made the right choice ultimately. But after our Chris Carson selection, A.J. Brown, no brainer there. Then Terry McLaurin, Mike Evans, Kyler Murray in the third round. While I think that's too early for quarterbacks, this is the way I think it should be in terms of where quarterbacks are being drafted after Patrick Mahomes. I don't think that Murray and Jackson should be drafted like 2 rounds later like you see in other platforms. I think this is a more accurate representation of what it should be, so I can appreciate that. Allen Robinson sandwiched in between. Then CeeDee Lamb with the 10th pick in the third round. Pretty good value. DeAndre Swift, Montgomery at the end of the third round. Keenan Allen, first pick in the fourth round. Okay, that's tremendous value there. I understand it's standard scoring, but Keenan Allen is still a very good value pick there. Amari Cooper with the second pick in the fourth round, secretly hoping he falls to us. That did not happen. TJ Hawkinson with the third pick in the fourth round. So there goes one of those tight ends that we really like. Julio Jones, good value there. Run on running backs here. Josh Jacobs, Darrell Henderson, Miles Sanders. I was hoping one of those guys, specifically Darrell Henderson, could drop to us. Doesn't happen. So I think the way we approach the running back position with Chris Carson kind of makes sense. Then you see Chris Godwin, Robert Woods. Robert Woods would have been incredible value if we got him in the fourth round, towards the end of the fourth round. But again, looking at these names, you look at the running backs now, I don't feel as pressured to take a running back here. You look at the wide receivers, and you see names like a Deontay Johnson and a Cooper Kupp, even a Tyler Lockett. But I've already got DK Metcalf and Chris Carson, so I'm not going to double down on the Seattle Seahawks offense to that big of an extent. I'm going Cooper Kupp here, hoping Deontay Johnson falls to us afterwards. Let's see what happens. In case you guys didn't see it, I'll pull up the draft board here and show you guys a better look at it. After Cooper Kupp, you see DJ Moore, you see Jamar Chase, then Josh Allen, Adam Thielen. I never even considered Josh Allen there at quarterback. Right now here, I'd like to get a tight end. I really would, but I also kind of want to get some good value at the flex position, and I think Deontay Johnson is a very, very good value pick here. I think he's got some very nice big play upside. Kenny Golladay kind of dealing, I believe, with a hamstring right now, so I'm not as huge of a fan of his. I think Deontay Johnson is the way to go here. Myles Gaskin, potentially, but I'm much better off just potentially taking a Damian Harris afterwards on the wraparound if we're lucky enough to get him. Quarterback, I'm not even considering. Tight end, Kyle Pitts, if he falls to us, probably won't. But he's a name that I would take in the next round afterwards. I'm going Deontay Johnson for now, though. And then let's see what happens afterwards. We'll break down these picks. And, fingers crossed that a couple names that I was looking at fall to us. But I don't think we're going to get that lucky. After Deontay Johnson, you see Tyler Lockett, you see Mike Davis, Kenny Golladay, Myles Gaskin. I would have taken Myles Gaskin ahead of Mike Davis. There goes Mark Andrews in the 5th round, Kareem Hunt, Travis Etienne, Melvin Gordon, Brendan Ayuk. Would not in 100 years take Travis Etienne this early on ahead of James Robinson in standard scoring. Forget about that. Hate that pick. Dak Prescott with the first pick in the 6th round. Afterwards, there's a little bit of a run on quarterbacks. You see Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, great value on T. Higgins. There goes Kyle Pitts and Damian Harris. So a double whammy for us, unfortunate, because I would have loved to have added Damian Harris or Kyle Pitts. Chase Claypool afterwards, and then that run on quarterbacks with Rodgers, Wilson, and Tom Brady. So now potentially here, we've got our running backs, we've got our wide receivers taken care of. At running back, who could you consider? Ronald Jones is an intriguing name. Raheem Mostert, but, I'm scared kind of the injury history there. So I'm looking at quarterback. I like Justin Herbert. I also really like Matthew Stafford, who I know I can get later on, and just kind of looking at the quarterback situation, what teams have quarterbacks already. Pretty much everybody but 1, 2, 3 other teams have quarterbacks. So let's see where Matthew Stafford falls on that cheat sheet, and if we could get him. So he's the 4th name there. I think we can probably get Matthew Stafford as our quarterback, so I'm not too worried about it. Now that means, looking at these other positions, where is there good value? And I'm looking at these names, and one jumps out to me. Yes, it's wide receiver, and we've kind of gone wide receiver heavy, but I don't care. I'm looking at Brendan Cooks. Brendan Cooks is a really good value pick, especially with the way Deshaun Watson potentially playing is trending. So I'm probably going to go Brendan Cooks here, and then could go with a Ronald Jones afterwards. And let's see what happens. There was near 100% chance Brendan Cooks would have been available. That's all right. He's extremely undervalued right now and inaccurately ranked, so don't really care about that message. You see afterwards Javonte Williams, Michael Carter, Courtland Sutton, Odell Beckham, so nothing too crazy there. Looking at these running backs, I would have rather had Ronald Jones over both those running backs, honestly. He's, at this point in time, would be my selection. I think he's a decent standard-suited running back, and he's the running back to own, no question about it, in Tampa Bay. So I am going with Ronald Jones here, get another, standard, solid-suited running back on the team, and then we'll see what happens afterwards, a run on some of these quarterbacks, some of these wide receivers that we like. But let's quickly take a gander. So after Ronald Jones, you see Raheem Mostert, Sermon, James Robinson. There goes James Robinson, a good value pick there. Chase Edmonds, Will Fuller, James Conner, Leonard Fournette, Ryan Tannehill, Michael Thomas. Again, I don't like Michael Thomas this potentially early in standard scoring. We still don't know the injury situation. You see David Johnson, Devin Singletary, Justin Herbert, Gus Edwards, and Jalen Hurts. And now our run on wide receivers would have loved Antonio Brown, Mike Williams, DJ Shark, Juju Smith-Schuster. So I'm looking at the situation here, and I'm kind of in a good spot because tight end-wise, I can, go with whoever I want. Quarterback-wise, I can go with whoever I want, but I think it would probably be smart to go Matthew Stafford and then Dallas Goedert. Dallas Goedert is the highest ranked tight end that I have left on my board, even with Zach Ertz there. Let's make sure we're not passing on any stud wide receivers or running backs that have kind of fallen. I don't see any names that potentially would qualify for that. So here, I'm going to go with, I'll go with Dallas Goedert first, not that it really matters. It doesn't matter at all. Matthew Stafford will be there for me. And then, we will go ahead and add Matthew Stafford to the squad afterwards. So that's taken care of, and we can get our quarterback and tight end situation taken care of here. We've also got that little bonus to Matthew Stafford to Cooper Kupp get that little stack for every single touchdown Cooper Kupp scores, well, Matthew Stafford also gets a nice little bump up. But so far, I do like the way this thing is shaping up. I like the way our roster is being constructed. After that Matthew Stafford pick, a run on tight ends, Noah Fant, Irv Smith, Robert Tonyan, Tyler Higbee. So happy we got Dallas Goedert. And then a run on running backs, Dillon, Drake, Pollard, Hines. So some handcuffs here. Logan Thomas then to end out the 9th round. Jamal Williams, McKissick, Madison, Coleman. Coleman could be a nice value. I think he's shaping up to be the starting running back for the New York Jets. And obviously has that connection with Salah. And afterwards, you see Devontae Parker, Rashad Penny, Phillip Lindsay, James White, Xavier Jones. So now we've got another decision to make here. And what I'm going to do is just look at the cheat sheet, look who some of the top names on the board are at this point in time. I like Deebo Samuel in terms of value here. So that's going to be the direction that I go in. And let's just add him to the team. And now we've got 2 more picks to make. And again, here, the name of the game is just getting good value pieces. I'm not looking for a backup quarterback. I'm not looking for a backup tight end, really. I'm just looking for, just good value guys that could break out. And I'm going to scroll down to some of these wide receivers. Marvin Jones, I don't know how he's still available. He is definitely going to be a pick here for me. So let's add him. And then potentially we might round this out with a Darrynton Evans for the Tennessee Titans as a handcuff to a Derrick Henry. I think that would be a smart approach here, kind of show you guys principled drafting. So yeah, let's round it out like that, and then we'll see what our draft grade here is. And that will be that. So we get a B grade. I think that's probably pretty accurate. Kind of breaking it down, Matthew Stafford, I think he's underrated. I think he's a top 10 quarterback. Then Derrick Henry, as safe pretty much as you can get at the running back position. Probably going to lead the league in rushing yards again. And if something happens to him, we've got Darrynton Evans as a great handcuff. Chris Carson, I love the fact that we were able to get him. DK Metcalf and Cooper Kupp. Yes, not ideal that we've got Carson and Metcalf, but the value was too good to pass up. Cooper Kupp, I like the value there. Probably more PPR suited, but, as a wide receiver too, I'm all right with it. Then we got Deontay Johnson, who I really, really like. And some great wide receivers here that I think have stellar standard scoring upside with Brendan Cooks, Deebo Samuel, Marvin Jones, all guys that I like, high touchdown upsides. So very, very much so like the bench. Ronald Jones also, I think, pretty good value where we got him. Dallas Goedert, he won't be a guy that's going to be an elite tight end as long as Zach Ertz is there. But I think he's going to be either, probably the top or the second best, go-to target for this Philadelphia offense. Definitely the tight end 1 on the team at this point in time. He's overtaken that role from Zach Ertz. So, I'd probably agree here in terms of the grade B. I might give it a, B plus potentially, but no, I'll go B. I'll be a little bit more conservative type of grade. But as always, let me know your guys' thoughts in the comment section, along with any other questions you guys might have. This is the place to ask them. And again, if you enjoyed, hit that like button, subscribe, and lastly, check us out online at alldaypigskin.com. And while you're there, get yourself a copy of the 2021 ADP Fantasy Football Draft Guide. Everything you could want at a great value. But in the meantime, we'll see you guys in future videos.